Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Deconversion Stories. And holy crap, we're actually on time today. How do you like them apples? Actually pulled the trigger on the start button. It was still 4:59, so I was like, oh, my God, we're going to shock everybody. Anyways, welcome to the show, Leslie.
Thank you.
Glad you could join myself and my partner in crime here, Mr. Mikey Famine. How come I never get a standing O? Like, what the hell?
The studio audience, they're just not a fan of you.
I know. Well, I'll try and change their minds. What we do here, Leslie, is we've talked to folks most of the time about any sort of a deconversion story that they had, like whether once belief in whatever religion they might have been in, or hell, we've even had an ex-white supremacist on here before. So,
okay,
yeah. And an ex-guru in the world of like new age bullshit. So we've had all kinds of people here shedding their old beliefs and finding their way to what we like to call reality. So if you have any sort of thing like that, could you sort of take us on that journey? And I'd also like to talk a little bit about the Center for Inquiry that you do podcasts and stuff for. So.
Sure. Well, I watched a couple of your videos, and for a lot of your guests, it's this epic journey from belief to non-belief. For me, it was more of a casual saunter.
Okay. It sounds like me.
So I mean, with a name like Rosenblood, you probably might guess that I was born into a Jewish family. And
me too. Well, I was actually born into a Catholic family and then adopted and raised in a Jewish family.
Okay. And
still not Jewish.
Well, we don't evangelize, but you're always welcome, Mikey.
I think it's too late.
So I would describe my household growing up as richly culturally Jewish and nominally religiously Jewish.
Yeah,
so
me too.
We would go to synagogue for the high holidays. So that's Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, and Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, and maybe like once or twice for services other years, and then weddings, bar mitzvahs, funerals, and that was about it. And we would have Shabbat dinner every Friday night, and we were allowed to go out with our friends after dinner, but we weren't allowed to miss Shabbat dinner. We would say 3 blessings before dinner. But my mom would sometimes make ribs for Shabbat dinner.
Counterintuitive.
So, like I said, culturally it was there, but the religious observance not so high. I went to public school, and then in addition to that, I went to Hebrew school 3 days a week. Until I was bar mitzvahed, which is the Jewish rite of passage when a boy becomes a man or a girl becomes a woman. And according to Jewish law, that's when you're an adult and responsible for your own actions. So I said, as a 13-year-old mother, I am now a man according to Jewish law, and therefore I don't want to go to Hebrew school anymore. Because what 13-year-old wants to go to school and then more school after that?
Double school.
But in terms of belief, I would describe myself at that point and until my early 20s as an agnostic.
Alert.
Yeah, I've got 2 cats and they're a little rangy tonight. So say hello, Darwin.
That's a great name.
So I would describe myself as an agnostic. If I was pressed at that time whether I believed in God, I would say I would have responded, well, there's God probably exists because everybody else seems to believe in a deity.
Yeah,
and like people know a lot more things than I do. So like they're probably right. I don't get it, but there's a ton of things that I didn't understand about the world. So yeah, probably, but I said that not from personal endorsement, but just as a default from what I saw from everybody else.
You were trying to be reasonable.
Yeah. And you know what? And it just wasn't that high on my priority list, right? I had school. I had a ton of extracurricular activities. I enjoyed reading. I liked being with my friends. I did all the things that I'm a pretty typical teenage boy. And, the question of whether God exists just wasn't very high on my priority list. So I never really thought about it and I really did much about it. And there wasn't, and then that changed. And something happened that shot that pretty much to the top of the priority list. And I was I was in the co-op program as an undergrad. So that meant I went to school for 4 months, and then I worked for 4 months, and then I had school for 4 months and worked for 4 months, etc. I graduated. And one of my work terms brought me to Ottawa, and I rented a room in a house. And she was a single mom, and she had a job, and she had a teenage kid, a little bit younger than me.
I forgot you were Canadian.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, all the way to Ottawa. Okay, jumping country. Wait a minute.
No,
I'm the odd man out.
Sorry. This is the Center for Inquiry Canada.
Yeah.
So I've been to the States. I lived in the States for about a year, but I'm not American.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
So I had a 4-month work term in Ottawa. I was renting a room in a house. And when I toured the house, I saw there were a couple of, there was a crucifix above the toilet, but I didn't think twice about it. I pretty much, if you meet a random Canadian and you assume that there's some form of Christian, you're going to be right more often than you're wrong.
Right.
So whatever. It turns out that not whatever. They were born again fundamentalist Pentecostals.
Oh boy.
That's how they describe themselves. That's not a value judgment. That's they would be literally very frank and unlike
delightful.
And unlike the Catholics, and they really didn't like Catholics. They every time they said the word, they somehow spat it out. I can try and imitate it, but I'm not really going to be able to replicate the venom that they use whenever. So unlike the Catholics, who pick and choose which parts of the Bible they believe, we born again fundamentalist Pentecostals know that every word of the Bible is God's true word.
No.
Yes. I'm telling you how they presented it to me. And so they kind of quickly realized that I myself was not a born-again fundamentalist Pentecostal. So they started trying to convert me to become a born-again fundamentalist Pentecostal. So they invited me to church every Sunday, and I politely declined. And after the third or fourth time, I thought I should make it a little bit more clear that I wasn't just declining today, but I was going to just...
in the future.
I wasn't interested in that, right? Like, by all means, you do that with your Sunday morning. I have no problem with that, but I don't want to
pre-declining.
And so I thought I would divulge that, no, please don't invite me to church anymore. I'm Jewish. That's not my thing. And that's when... Did
they ever use the "you killed Jesus" card on you?
No. I have had that used on me, but not by this family. Then they told me two things, and both of which were a little surprising for me. One was they told me that the Jews were the chosen people, which I found surprising, not because this was the first time I was hearing it. I went to Hebrew school and I was told that the Jews were the chosen people. But I was surprised to hear that from these fundamentalist Pentecostals. I mean, if you think that the Jews are the chosen people, why are you a Christian?
Yeah, right.
I know why.
Yes, but I understand why now, but my 21-year-old self had no idea. I was very confused at that point. And the second thing, and to this day, and Mikey, if you can help me out here, I'd appreciate it, because the second part I don't understand. I'm very hazy on the theology here, but you get, I'm just going to call them God points for converting someone to the faith. That's not like someone to become a born-again fundamentalist Pentecostal who isn't one, but you get bonus God points for converting one of the chosen people to born-again fundamentalist Pentecostalism. So whereas before they were persistent, but it was kind of a low-key persistence. When I told them that I was Jewish, they became quite aggressive in their attempts to convert me. Up to the point where they staged, and I didn't have the language for this when I was 21, but it was a classic intervention. I came home from work one day, and there were 6 people seated in a semicircle, and then I was I was seated at like the focal point of that
Like
of
a
that
jubilee or
semicircle, because they were deeply concerned about, you know, my eternal soul. And I was not prepared for this. I was just coming home from work, but I sat down and I was talking with them, and it's like, why don't you believe? I said, well, because the Bible has some good stories in it, but factually it's wrong in many cases. And, you know, and so I said, like, the order in which the Bible says God created the animals is not the order in which they appear in the fossil record. It gets evolution wrong, right? It's just, it's factually incorrect on this front.
And bats are not birds.
And the trees came before the sun.
Yeah, and then they and then so they said, and this is burned into my memory. They told me that evolution is nothing but a theory hatched by scientists for the sole purpose of discrediting God's true word in the Bible. So this is when I realized that only the Bible, like the only source of knowledge, the only source of argument, the only source of truth, fact, is the Bible. If it's not sourced from the Bible, it's so much fluffery. So for the first time, I read the Old and New Testaments from cover to cover.
Yeesh.
I've done that, yeah.
And that's when I realized that there's no there, right? Like it is when you just read it, it is so obviously a human creation, and so obviously a pastiche of multiple voices and multiple authors put together. It's like a compilation of books rather than a single book. This is it was just so clearly not divinely inspired.
It's like a Chat GPT summary of Bronze Age theology.
Yeah. Again, not something I would have said as an undergrad when I was 21.
If you said that back then, I would have burned you as a witch.
Yeah,
like,
fair enough.
What do you mean you have AI? Get the time traveler. Get him.
And so that's when I became an atheist. That's when I said, okay, this God thing that I was really just basically willing to defer to the commonly held opinion, or what I thought was the commonly held opinion. It's like, yeah, probably I don't get it, but probably yeah. That's when I realized, no, this is clearly a human invention, and that's when I became an atheist. And then so I fended them off, but it made me. This was shortly after the Waco, Texas compound was burned by the FBI, because and I realized, like, this type of fanaticism, this type of belief of where facts don't matter, reality doesn't matter, the word is the truth, and everything flows from that. That's when I became scared, like, because they are so concerned with my immortal soul that they don't care what happens to my corporeal body. I very much care about what happens to my body.
Are you invested in that? Do you care about that? I don't know.
But they didn't. And it's like, and I saw what can happen when you genuinely put faith first, when you genuinely and sincerely believe with all your heart in the premises of a faith, it can become incredibly dangerous to the physical world, this material world that we are living in now. And although again, I didn't have the language for it for many years later, I quickly became a humanist. But I wouldn't have described myself that way again at the time, because I didn't know the word existed. But then when I discovered that there was this thing called humanism, and I read what its basic principles were, and I was like, oh, well, I've been one of these for years, but now I have a word. Thank you.
I did the same thing when I
expanding my vocabulary.
discovered humanism. I did exactly the same thing. I said, well, that's pretty much the way I feel and think. So,
as the 10 millionth discoverer of humanism, let me tell you.
Yeah, no. And I don't, and just to be clear, guys, I don't think that there's anything particularly unique or special about my experience. Like, I'm just giving you, this is how it I came to where I am, and I think that is why I think that event it left a very lasting impression on me, and that is why I am a passionate secular activist to this day. And by that I mean government should be neutral in matters of religion, right? It should neither support nor suppress religious expression. Government does its thing, and people who are religious do their thing. And like, I want Christians and Muslims and Jews and atheists and Hindus and Wiccans to be a part of the government, but I don't want our government to be an atheist government or a Jewish government or a Christian or Muslim or whatever government, right? It's, you legislate and you regulate and you do things for the public good, based on this world, and then you go home to your family in whatever configuration that is, and if you want to, you go to whatever house of worship you want, and
that's right.
Obey those rules if you wish to, and that's great. But I don't want them imposed.
I think it's really hilarious that all of these politicians like to use their faith as a shield, and then as a bludgeon, and then as a dagger, and they want to. Why don't you try to move up in your church? If you love the church so much, why don't you? Oh, there's a bureaucracy that you cannot crack, because whoever's in those seats, they ain't getting up, and you can't vote them. They don't get voted in and out. So they're let me just get these dummies.
I think the people that, particularly politicians, but the people who are loudest publicly about their faith are not actual believers. They're certainly not adherents to the actual tenets of the faith, right? But I don't think, I think most of them are probably not genuine believers either. It's just, if I do this, if I say this God talk, I get power, I get money, I get fame, I get influence, I get, these things.
You get everybody doing cover fire for you. Whenever you do something bad.
Sure. Oh, you know what? Fine. I can make more money if I say the God words. Fantastic. I'll say the God words. I get more followers if I do.
Amen.
This. Yeah. And so the people that, because I'm sure you guys too. Like, I have friends who are believers, who are faithful, but they're also wonderful people. But they're also much like they are faithful, but they're not loud about it. They're not wearing it as a badge of pride and saying, you must trust me because I'm a Christian or I'm a good Muslim or whatever. They're just a good person, and they pray to their God and seek comfort and guidance. And
when they're worried,
what? If that works for you, great.
They're worried and they pray to themselves. I'm not trying to get in the way of that. Say whatever you want to say to get your pep talk yourself. But as soon as you start saying, 10 commandments in every school, now we got an issue.
Yeah.
Are you going to say something?
I was going to say, and a lot of times they love to drum the drum of you can't have objective morality without having some form of a deity too. Then that gives people like us sort of less of a chance of being somebody decent in the minds of all these other people too. So we kind of get cornered for that. Right? It's like, but we don't, it's like, shut up. That's not the thing.
Yeah.
It's not really a thing, right?
If only there was anything like laws or something that you could base what's good or bad or encouraged or discouraged by a society. It's like they don't have that, like that chokehold on morality like they think they do. It's like, I could also say I don't murder people because it's illegal and I don't want to go to jail. There you go. I don't have to be moral about anything. Yeah, it is not in my best interest.
Like, what is it? I think Martin Luther King Jr. I said, and I might not get the quotation exactly right, but he said something pretty close to, the law can't make you love me, but it can prevent you from killing me. And I think that's pretty important too.
Yeah, it's true.
Restrict things. So I don't you're not going to be able to legislate morality, but I could make some pretty steep penalties for certain deviant behavior.
Sure. And I mean, if we're talking about societal well-being, right? then let's look at countries that are highly religious versus countries that are more secular. And if you look at the research done by Phil Zuckerman, who's an American sociologist, what he found is that more secular societies have higher lifespans, lower crime rates, higher educational achievement, lower poverty. Basically, you take any measure of sociological well-being, and more secular societies do better than
thrive better.
Than the highly religious ones. And Mikey, in honor of my American friend, he also did this. Phil Zuckerman also did this research state by state in the U.S. And he found that correlation applied on a state level as well. The more secular states, where government was neutral in religion, where religion did not play a big role in politics, were freer, lower, had a lower population, percent of the population in jail. They were wealthier. Basically, they're better places to live. Any way that you care to measure it. I mean, there's like one or two statistical outliers. Like, okay, if you cherry pick this one data, this religious state is better than this more secular one. But overall, the correlation is quite strong. He's also very careful to say, I'm not implying causation. I'm not saying which way the causal arrow goes. But what it does show is that a high level of religiosity and a high level of religion entanglement with politics is not necessary for a thriving society.
Right.
That's why the prison is filled with atheists.
Yes.
No Christian would ever find themselves in a prison.
Except your premise is completely false.
You are 100% incorrect. Yeah, I think we're less than 1% in there or something like that.
I mean, even if it was 10, we're grossly underrepresented and they're grossly overrepresented, right? So,
which is good. So, yeah, but we're the one with no morals. Sure.
I mean, that's such an easily debunked argument. I get. It's like basically anyone who makes it isn't paying attention and is just trying to is just hoping that whoever's listening isn't aware of some very basic facts.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very old argument, right? And it was never true, but it's far less true today than it ever was.
It's the thing I was going to say earlier about the super hyper fundamentalists and with Jews is, well, I forgot to take into account the time frame. The modern iteration, I don't know if you're aware of this, they want all the Jews to go to Israel like at the same time, and they sent the red heifers, and they're like, come on, like it is gone full blown death cult. Let's bring apart, let's apocalypse this place. But first, we must get them all this. It's like, why would you send cows? Did you actually try? Like, they're legitimately sending cows to try to end the earth forever.
Well, that's.
But
they're trying to trigger revelations.
Yeah, right. We want the second coming. They want the second coming. And again, Mike, if you take the premises of, in this case, the Christian faith, seriously, if you genuinely believe that Jesus came to earth, is the Son of God, was crucified, died, and was resurrected, and that humanity will be judged, and there will be a second coming, and that everyone who is worthy will go to heaven. Like, if these are things that you believe to your core, in the core of your being, then doing everything you can to bring about the second coming, which incidentally does mean the destruction of the earth, but it means that we will experience the rapture, right? We, as atheists, we consider it a rupture, but they consider it a rapture. And I would get to go to heaven now. I get to go to heaven now forever. why wouldn't it's a horrific thought to postpone that bliss for even a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I mean when I say that when I had that insight when I was living in Ottawa, that's when I got scared, because
Mm-hmm.
it is rational. If you accept these ludicrous premises, then these horrific acts become quite reasonable. There's a wonderful one-act play by Christopher Durang called Sister Mary Ignatius Explains It All for You. I should probably look up his biography. I don't actually know anything about the man himself, but based on his writings, he is, there's two things about him. One, he is brilliant, and two, he is furious. He is so angry, and it just bleeds onto the page. And I mean, kind of a spoiler alert. If you're going to see this one-act play, I'm going to ruin it. I'm going to display the big twist for you. But the play has been around for like 30 years, so you know, it's not exactly a timely thing. But there's a Sister Mary Ignatius is a nun, and she had students, and these students are coming back for a reunion like 20 years later. And one of her students comes out as gay. And she asks, well, when was the last time you went to confession? Because she's very upset, right? Because being gay, it's a mortal sin. He's doomed to hell, and she's very concerned about his mortal soul.
Even though it says nothing about that in the Bible.
I went to confession just before I came here. It was a very long one. It had been a long time. And she said, well, have you sinned since confessing? It's like, no, I came straight here from there. And she said, oh, and she takes out a gun and shoots him dead.
Oh my God.
Cold-blooded, like just boom, murder. And then she starts dancing. She's celebrating. And because I just saved his soul. I sent his soul to heaven. Shortcut. He was going to sin, and now he's not going to hell. He's going to heaven. So
yeah, but she is though.
She is celebrating the cold-blooded murder of this young man.
Yeah, yeah.
And you realize that on the premises of the Catholic faith, which she took very seriously, there's a logic to that.
Right.
Yeah. But now she's broken, like literally, I think when did we get to the thou shalt not kill commandment? I think that's
depending on version, it's number 1 or it's number 4, because the 10 Commandments are listed 3 different times.
Fair enough.
In the Old Testament. So
I always thought the number 1 was thou shalt worship no other gods before me.
Yeah, that's right. And I think in 2 of the 3, I think that's the first one. Yeah. I'm pulling this from memory, so you know someone can pull up Wikipedia and correct me if my memory is wrong on that.
It looks like Sister Mary Explains It All was made into a movie in 2001, and you could check it out on Prime Video or Play.
I did not know about the movie version. It's a wonderful play. I've seen it performed 3 times. It's great.
Let's see. Is it free? Let's see. Let me see.
Why
is it in Spanish? Why is it in Spanish? I mean, I speak Spanish, but I didn't click Spanish, did I? There we go.
All right. So, Leslie, now that you are the non-believer that you are,
yes.
How long did it take you to get involved with the Center for Inquiry? Like, was that a thing that pretty much happened right away, or did it sort of did something lead you to it?
Yeah, something did lead me to it. This is going back to, probably 2005 or so.
Okay.
So this is, a decade or so after the events that I was explaining to you before. And I had a pretty new device called an iPod, and I had discovered podcasts. Right. And I loved podcasts, and my favorite podcast was Point of Inquiry, which was hosted.
You're going to say Joe Rogan. I was going to say no.
No, this is back in like 2005, and
it was less crazy back then.
It was hosted by DJ Grothe of the Center for Inquiry in the United States. And he was, in my opinion, he was an amazing host. He was a great interviewer, and I really enjoyed it. It was an American organization, and it was focused primarily on the United States. But he was such a good interviewer that was fine. And there wasn't a great deal of Canadian content at that time that I could find that I was interested in. And at one point, he interviewed the executive director of the fairly newly founded Centre for Inquiry Canada. And it was a fairly short conversation, maybe 20 minutes or so. And they're headquartered in Toronto, which is where I was living, and it described what they were doing. And I was like, wow, they're activists for all the things that are really important to me. Sure. So I looked them up, and I became a member, and I started volunteering, and that's how I found out about it. And I've been a member ever since. So whenever I joined, I guess maybe 6 months or 8 months after CFIC was founded, and I now sit on the board.
That's cool.
Yeah, you're the secular chair. Is that what they call it?
That's right. Yeah,
secular chair, and now podcast chair or something, I think.
I have. So on the board, I sit. I'm a director, so I sit on the board of directors. I'm the secular chair of the organization. So any issues regarding the church and state are pretty much they'll come to me. And I'm the host of Podcast for Inquiry, which is the official podcast of the Centre for Inquiry Canada. And I just wrapped up, I just recorded the last episode of 2025, which means that that's 4 years now that we've been releasing episodes every 2 weeks. And so there's a new episode coming out on Wednesday, and then one last episode on December 17th. We're going to take New Year's Eve off and resume with new episodes in January to kick off our 5th season.
Awesome. I think I've got one more episode to do, and then I won't be doing one on the 27th, and then we'll be back in January, of course.
Yeah, I feel that last week of December, everybody's doing other things, and
I'll be away,
and that's fine. Everybody. I'm busy. You're busy. I figured no one's listening to podcasts in that week, so
yeah, no, it's that time of year where everyone gets together and does their thing, their holiday thing, and whatever it may be.
Yeah, you get 3 statutory holidays in a 1 week period. It's great, and then everybody takes as vacation days those other days in between.
Absolutely. So, do you have plans for the holidays, or
just relaxing? Just going to spend some time with the family and chilling out. I'm not no big travel plans this year. Just it's been a busy year. It's been a great year, and I just want to just spend some time lying down on the couch, reading some books, playing games with my family, and enjoying life. Yeah,
that's cool for sure. I now have my biological family and also my adoptive family. So I've got the Hanukkah thing that they still do, and there's the Christmas thing that the biological family does. Although I don't think this year anything's going on with the biological family. I think they all sort of had plans elsewhere. So I'll just stay home or whatever. But I'm not 100% sure. There may be something. So we'll see what happens. But I do have plans possibly with some friends locally here. So
yeah, I mean, I'll get together with some friends. My parents live. I live in Toronto. My parents live in Hamilton. One of my brothers lives in Burlington. So there'll probably be a family gathering where we have dinner together, or a glass of wine. But yeah, that's. I'm fortunate. I get along well with my family. I love them, and it's always nice when we get together. Yeah,
me too. Yeah, it's good that doesn't happen for a lot of people when they deconvert from whatever system they're in, right?
Okay, so let me tell you the biggest price that I paid for coming out as an atheist. And again, I think this might distinguish me from many of your guests. This was a couple of years later after my realization in Ottawa that the Bible is hardly a sacred scroll, but very clearly a human creation. And we were having Shabbat dinner at my parents' house, and my grandmother was there. And somehow the topic came up, and I was sitting on the floor, and my grandmother was like scritching my head, like as we're talking, and like it feels great, right? She's scritching my head, and somehow the topic came up, and she said, "So Leslie, like you really don't believe in God?" And I said, "No, I genuinely don't. I genuinely think that there is no God." And she's scritching my head, and then she stops.
Uh-oh.
And she pauses, and she goes, "Huh." And then she resumes scratching my head. So there were like those 3 to 5 seconds where I wasn't getting head scritches. And that is the enormous price that I had to pay for coming out as an atheist.
Oh, man, I feel your pain.
Thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing.
You know what? I feel like I can trust you guys, and I'm being open here. No, but I'm very lucky. Like through the work that I've done and the volunteering I've done at CFIC, I've spoken with many people who have lost like their families, they've lost communities, like everyone they've ever known. They've lost their sense of self because their identity was tied up in their belief and in their faith. Right. And they just felt like without that, like what are they even? Like are they even are they even a person? And just how wrenching it was for them to be honest with themselves and with their loved ones, and the price they had to pay. Like it's awful. And I'm thinking about, I don't want to out anybody, so I'm not going to tell anybody else's story, but like it does bring tears to my eyes when I think about it, and none of that applies to me. Like I'm very fortunate in that it just I didn't have to pay a price. It was just I was going to say choosing a different sports team, but I know people that have been excommunicated from their families for that too.
There's no Cubs fans allowed in this house.
Yeah, something like that. But it's like, oh, you're left-handed, right? Okay, that's interesting. Didn't know that. That's 10% of the population or whatever the number is. But okay. But that's it. That's all it was. And both of my brothers are non-believers, but they don't understand why I'm an activist.
Oh, okay.
Right, like
Did you explain to them why, or?
Well, so their perspective is, there's always going to be crazy people in the world.
Facts.
And there's an old greeting card, like never argue with a pig. You don't change anyone's mind, and you end up in the mud.
Yeah. You both end up in the mud, and the pig will like it.
Yeah, right. So they think of CFIC as the water is wet organization, and like, so is water wet? Yes, right. Like nothing.
Well, that's technically not. It just feels that way to us.
Yeah, okay, but like,
here we go.
CFIC stands for reason, compassion, secular values. They're fully on board with these principles, but like, why do I spend all of this time and effort on the podcast, on volunteering, on the research, on the lobbying, on getting involved with court cases, on organizing petitions, because you're not going to change anyone's mind, they think, and just like get on. Like your Sunday afternoon is better spent on the couch watching the ball game rather than writing an essay about critiquing some letter that the archbishop or that a cardinal wrote about a new Ontario law.
Right. Well, I think activism is important. Like, I don't go around trying to change people's minds about deities at all. Like sometimes I'll argue with people when I do the call-in.
Well, that's evangelism, right? That's not activism.
Yeah. Well, okay, fair enough. But I mean, my activism is usually when something is trying to be like, religious people get a hold of power positions, and they try to inject that into law or whatever, and they try to take away the rights of other people's. That's when I become sort of activist against those sorts of things, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I'm a secular activist. I don't want government to support religious faith, and I don't want government to suppress religious expression.
Right.
All right. For government neutrality. But
what should be crazier to your brother is that there needs to be activism to remind people that water is wet.
Yeah.
Because there's literally people saying that water is dry, and everyone who told you water was wet is a liar. They're part of some deep conspiracy trying to control the earth, trying to make water dry. Like, that's where they're at. So it's like, I have to say water is wet.
We've got anti-vaxxers, we have flat earthers
in general.
Earthers.
It's not, astrology hasn't made a huge comeback in the society, but like there are still people who think that the position of the stars at the moment of your birth have an ongoing influence on your life
for some reason. I don't know how, but yeah.
Mercury's in retrograde.
There's a lot of faith-based or like contrary to all evidence and reason-based positions that are held by a substantial minority of the population. And when it comes to religion, depending on where you are, it might be a majority of people in a community or a country.
State, yeah. I mean, go in the Bible Belt, and you can't throw a stick without 17 theists falling out. So like, and God made that beautiful stick. Look at the rings inside that stick. Only God could have made that stick. This is God's stick.
And I don't want to cast aspersions on any particular place. Like I live in Ontario, which is Canada's most populous province, and we have our public school system from kindergarten to grade 12. And Ontario also has what's called a separate school system, which is another name for a Catholic school system, fully funded by the province for Catholics only, also from K to 12. And that costs the government approximately $10 billion per year. And I would like to see that not be funded anymore, but that's going to be like a generational effort. It's going to be a major that'll be a major milestone if and when that happens. But it's going to take the efforts of a lot of people for a long time for that significant change to be realized here. So it's not like Canada is a perfectly secular nation and everything is great here. There is unfortunately a lot of work for secular activists north of the border as well, Mikey.
Yeah, we have our work cut out for us here too. Not quite as bad as south, but it's there.
I mean, if you trace back probably all of your fundamentalist groups up there, I'm not going to name which country probably had a large hand in it, but I can guess. I can guess.
Yeah.
Like the specific evangelical North American brand of Christianity that they have talked themselves into is truly hilariously contradictory and damaging. Like it doesn't do anything for them. They don't even really know the tenets of the religion all the way, but they know who to hate and who to love, and that's about it.
Yeah. Who's probably one of your more memorable guests on your podcast?
Oh, yes.
So one of them was Phil Zuckerman, who I cited earlier. I was a fan of his research for many years, and then he wrote a book called "What It Means to Be Moral." And I read it and I quite enjoyed it. So I asked him to come on the podcast, and I was delighted when he said yes. And so that was a tremendous interview and a great conversation. And I'm really glad I had that. Probably another one that I would rank equally with that is a conversation I had with Catherine Nixie. And well before the podcast started, I read a book called The Darkening Age. It's her book, her first book called The Darkening Age. And it chronicles how the rise of Christianity led to the destruction of so much knowledge and philosophy and literature from from the classical age, because if it was unchristian, there were book burnings like that happened, but there was so much social pressure to have a non-Christian book in your library could lead to social exclusion and loss of jobs and so these things were both actively and more subtly repressed. And the book is well researched. I learned a ton from reading it, and it is so well written. It was just a joy. And then I think in our first year, I got, someone said, well, Catherine Nixie has agreed to come on the podcast. I was like, really? I had like, I think she was one of the first authors that I spoke with. And I grew up as a bookworm. I still am. I'm a complete geek. I'm a total nerd. And
nothing wrong with that.
I spent years of my life preferring the company of a good book to the company of a fellow human being. And so like authors, like I knew in some area of my brain that, authors are people like flesh and blood, but I had, I really thought that I treated them in my own head as living on kind of this separate plane of existence. Like they existed, but they didn't walk in the same circles as I did. They didn't breathe the same air as I did. And so
like the Valar and the Ainur, they would just be above in a different, above Middle Earth.
It didn't even occur to me that I could talk to someone like Catherine Nixie, who wrote an incredible book, which I loved reading. And she sat down and was willing to talk with me. And it was a phenomenal conversation. It was a great book. And I loved the conversation. And so those were the two that come straight to mind. But now, even just telling you those two stories, I thought of like four more. Like,
I know. I have a lot to stand out for.
I'm the least. You have to understand, I am the least objective person when it comes to Podcast for Inquiry. I'm the host. It is my baby. I am passionate about it. I love it. I absolutely love it. I am so honored and delighted and awed like every 2 weeks that I get to have the conversations that I get to have with the people who I get to have them with. Cool. It just floors me every time. And I look back on our catalog and it's like, wow, like there's like just some great stuff out there, from my perspective. And like and like I said, I am the most biased person in the world when it comes to this particular podcast, but I'm really, really proud of it. And
you should be, because I've watched a bunch, and you do a really good job, by the way.
Thank you. And I'm really trying not just to have interesting conversations, although I think they're fascinating, and I'm glad that you enjoy them too.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
We call it Podcast for Inquiry, and that's both because we're the Center for Inquiry, and this is the Podcast for Inquiry. I wanted to call it Inquiring Minds, but then I looked it up, and there was somebody else who already had an active podcast.
I was about to say, good luck.
And I was like, okay, fine. It's not that, or there's no rule that says I couldn't name it that, but it's like, no, that's not cool. Someone else has had that. So we called it Podcast for Inquiry. But like, I'm trying to exemplify a genuine spirit of inquiry. This is what it's like to entertain an idea so that you can understand it without necessarily accepting it. But if you're going to reject that idea, like my favorite idea from Dan Dennett, and he, was a philosopher and had lots of good ideas. But for me,
oh yeah, he's great.
For me, the most important idea that he had is that before you can criticize somebody, like their thoughts or their views, you need to summarize them so well that the person who supports them says, "Thank you. That's exactly right. I couldn't have said it better myself." Mm-hmm. Only then that you've demonstrated a deep understanding of your your interlocutor's opinions, only then are you entitled to criticize them. And I thought, yeah, like I really like that idea. And so with the Podcast for Inquiry, I don't always agree with my guests, and sometimes they have opinions that I think are are wrong. But I'm never going to shout at them. It's never going to be a histrionic match, but it's going to be first I'm going to try and understand what you're saying, and then we might disagree about it. But first comes the inquiry, first comes the understanding, and then comes if it happens, then it comes a disagreement. But most of the time I don't get to the disagreement side of things, because I tend to favor guests that are at least broadly philosophically aligned with my with my views. I'm not there's lots of, person believes A, other person believes B, let them fight it out. Two will enter, one will leave. Fine, but if you want to have kind of a debate, gladiatorial combat,
the Thunderdome,
very entertaining. But that's not what Podcast for Inquiry is about. It's about trying to give listeners or viewers more than just a surface level understanding of a complex area of the human experience. So it covers between the various, like every episode is on a particular topic, but across the 4 years we've covered history and culture and business and philosophy and religion and politics. But when I say politics, I need to be more specific here. It's not about partisan politics. It's not about what this party said or what this leader said. It's about politics writ large. It's about how do we have, what are our social institutions, and should we change them? And we, as a society, we have scarce resources or limited resources. So how should they be? How should they be allocated? How much should be for private use, and how much should be dedicated towards public goods? And these are eternal questions, and there's not a single right answer. But so in that sense, I discuss politics. In that sense, I discuss politics, but not about this is what the president or the prime minister did, or this is what that party represents, or this is the scandal of the day. There's lots of coverage of that, and I'm not against it in any way, but that's not what Podcast for Inquiry is about.
Good. Well, if you're ever hard up for a guest, I'm always available. Sorry. We're all like if you ever do the topic,
talk to your doctor about that nasty cough, Mikey.
Available.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever do the topic of deconstruction and deconversion, and you want to,
we got some stories.
Yeah,
I'm sure. All right. Well, I'll be in touch. We can maybe we'll have something. I'll have the two of you on next year.
That'd be great. It'd be a lot of fun. So before we bring this to a close, you have something you want to ask, Mikey? Or?
Oh, I was looking through some of the guests, and I was looking Richardson. What's the lady? Catherine Richardson?
No, Catherine Richardson. Oh, that was a really important episode. I hope everybody listens to that. That's an episode about planetary boundaries.
I might have watched that on YouTube and not known it was you, because I was like, because I think I follow her, and I think she either reposts or so. I was like, I think I've seen this. So I might have been accident.
Yeah, so she's the lead scientist that came up with the scientific concept of planetary boundaries. That basically means in order for us to have a healthy ecosystem in which humans are capable of thriving, you have to keep the planet within certain limits, right? So this isn't one of the planetary boundaries, but think of temperature, right? Like humans can't survive if it's too cold or if it's too warm. There's a range in which we can live. So, but she identified on a scientific basis several planetary boundaries. So things like greenhouse gases, right? You have too much of that and things get out of whack. The nitrogen cycle, the potassium cycle, the freshwater cycle, novel entities, the ozone layer, and several others. So she identified all of them, and we are only improving on one, and that's the ozone layer. And we are at risk or exceeding several others. Like it's we really need to change how we treat this planet if we want our global civilization to continue through to the end of the century. It's pretty scary because we are not taking it seriously enough. So in terms of actual importance to our global survival or our collective thriving, my conversation with Catherine Richardson is probably one of the most important episodes I've ever had.
I've yet to watch that one, so I'll definitely check that one out. I believe we just linked it in the chat, so folks can go and check that out as well if they want to, because it is very important, especially with guys like Trump rolling back all the safety shit in the industry, and
we weren't taking it seriously enough before Trump, and now we're back to drill baby drill and all coal all the time, and we've almost finished this multi-billion-dollar renewable energy generation project, and we're just going to scrap it all and take it. I was like, that's just like even strictly from a business perspective, like you've already put almost all of the investment in, it's almost done. We're about to start generating a whole bunch of electricity, even if it's not the best one or your preferred way. We're about to generate all of this electricity, but we're just going to take those billions of dollars that we've invested and throw it away. And so we've always come up with new ways to use electricity. That's just what we do. We're lazy. We figure out a way to electrify it, and sometimes we're stupid, right? We do dumb shit with power, like Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, and AI, which is just we're going to boil the ocean to create a summary of your meeting. but we're doing it anyway, and we're destroying a significant portion of what could generate the electricity to power these things. Like it makes no sense, and it's going to be in the long run to all of our detriment.
And I think the last thing he signed off was they snuck into that BBB was a lot of restrictions on hemp, and hemp is a thing where you can plant across an entire field, and it will pull carbon out of the air, turn it into hemp, because that's what plants do. They take carbon out of the air and grow with it. And you can have a whole field in 6 weeks. You can just keep doing it over and over and over again and sequester carbon that way. Well, what if someone gets high? Oh, well then let the earth boil, I suggest.
I don't know. You're talking to two Canadians, and for the last several years, marijuana has been illegal, controlled like alcohol, but a legal substance in this country. So. After a while, after we had gay marriage here, it did come to the United States, and I figure you'll come to your senses sooner or later. We'll continue to lead the way for you, Mikey.
They're about to repeal it. It's fine. Trump will be dead from cheeseburger in a couple of weeks here, so everyone just hold on. And then
that's an improvement.
No, we're going to impeach him.
Vance ain't going to do shit.
And then we're going to impeach Johnson, and we're just going to go all the way down the line until it's time for an election.
All right.
Ain't nobody trying to participate in this dumb assery. It's like you said, we have everything set up, and all he has to do is push the green button. He's like, well, what if I sell all the equipment and then sell the green button? It's like, God damn it, you greedy little shit. God, you suck at business. Stop trying to do business.
Yeah, we all know that one for sure.
You bankrupted a goddamn casino. How? How?
Yeah, that's always boggled my mind.
Get large bucket. Put casino on front of bucket. Have people put money in bucket. Take bucket home, empty into bank account. He fucked that up 3 times. How? We don't have enough money for the bucket. How did you mess this up? There's literally 2 steps. Take the money.
Yeah, only he could do that. But before we wrap this up, Leslie, if you could go back in time and talk to believer you, what sort of message would you give yourself?
That common wisdom isn't. Don't, just because most people seem to lean in a particular way doesn't mean that it's right. It
Mhm.
actually is really important to think for yourself, to draw your own conclusions, because if you just go with the crowd, sooner or later it will lead you astray.
Yeah.
And you know that that deference that I had when I was younger, yeah, you're probably right. And if it seems wrong, it probably is. Like having a little bit more confidence in myself and a little less deference to what I perceived as the commonly held thoughts of others.
Sure.
You know, I mean, you know, but as I'm saying that, I'm also thinking of what I was like as a teenager. That would be kind of a license to be a dick. You're all wrong, and I'm the only one who understands things, and like that's you go too far in that direction, and you know you're just a jerk.
We all get better. It stops working after a while. Then you try different things like, oh, I should not be an asshole when I say these things. Got it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I stopped calling myself an atheist fairly soon after that point, and there's kind of like, and you know, if you ask me, am I an atheist? I'll say yes, I am. I mean, you call Neil the 604 atheist, but there's two reasons that I'm a little uncomfortable saying that, describing that about myself, even though it's completely accurate. And the first is, I mean, atheist just means that I don't believe in any deity, right? And so it doesn't tell you anything about what I do believe, right? It's like,
Right.
I don't believe in leprechauns, and I don't believe in wizards, even though they're very popular in literature. All true statements. You know, it's kind of like saying I'm not an American. Like that's true. I'm not a citizen of the United States. But it's much better to say I'm a Canadian. That gives you more tangible information about who I am. I'm a humanist. I'm a secular humanist. That tells you who I am, and not what I'm not. But the second reason is the existence of a God plays almost no role in my life. It plays no role in my philosophy and how I raise my kids and how I go to work and how I how I treat others every day. Like there are many principles that are really important to me that I've worked on over the course of my life. And God's existence or lack thereof, it plays no part in it. So I don't want to give theism the prominence. Like it gives the impression that atheism is important to me. It's not, right? Like it's a self-evident truth, right? But I don't go around saying, I'm a spherical earther.
Earth is round.
Yeah, right. Like, right. Like, I mean, yes. Do I think that the Earth is an oblong spheroid? Yes, I do. Yeah. But and there's no real doubt about that, and I'm not ashamed of that. But I'm not going to, like, if someone asked me about my philosophical views, someone's like, yeah, I'm a spherical earther, like because it doesn't play that important a role in my life, and theism doesn't play a big part in my life, right? It's not that important to my value system. It plays no real role in my value system and in my daily interactions and priorities. So, if asked, am I a flat earther? I will say no, but I'm not going to introduce it into conversation. And if someone asked me to describe myself, I wouldn't. Why would you? I wouldn't use the word atheist to describe myself. But if someone asked me, "Am I an atheist?" I'd say, "Oh yeah, of course. Like yes."
I always walk into every room. Hey guys, by the way, I'm not a flat earther.
I just like it's like I fail to understand why you have questions. My T-shirt is very clear, not a flat earther, right? Like, why are we talking about flat Earth? Everything that needs to be said is right here on the T-shirt.
You must be a flat earther because you keep bothering me about my shirt. Clearly, you believe
Why is this so important to you? My shirt is very clear on the topic. Yeah.
You're obsessed.
So I don't mean to cast any shade on you. I totally respect Neil the 604 atheist. I'm just giving you my perspective on the term.
Yeah, I needed something to go with, and that's just what I came up with.
No, and it's fine, right? You've got a show, you've got an audience. You come here every week, and you have these great conversations. I mean, that's great. You've really built something here, and I think it's fantastic.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And I also want to thank you so much for taking some time out to hang out with Mikey and myself for the show tonight.
Yeah,
my pleasure.
And the kitties too.
Yeah, Darwin says hi.
There's
Darwin. And here he goes onto the shoulder.
yeah, typical orange cat behavior.
Yeah.
Anyway, so apparently Darwin looks like he got to share the brain cell tonight. So. But we are going to do an after party, folks, and Leslie says he'll join us for a little bit anyway. So if you want to be involved in the after party, just let myself or Mikey know, and we can get a link to you. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's show. There is a link to that after party if you just want to look in the description box below. There's also a link to all the wonderful music you hear at the beginning and ending of the show, also linked below. And also there is links for the stuff that Leslie does with the Center for Inquiry Canada and his podcast and stuff below. So definitely check that out. And until then, guys, like I always say at the end of the interview, like the late, great Christopher Hitchens once said, it's called faith because it's not knowledge. And we'll see you guys next time.
bye.